Hello, you guys. Welcome back to the With Fikayo podcast. My name is Fikayo, and thank you so much for having me in your ears. All right, so the name of this episode today is Consistency is Quieter Than You Expect. And the reason I named this podcast this today is because we're coming on the third week of January. That initial New Year excitement is starting to fade. And I know with that as well, sometimes the resolutions, the goals, the intentions that we've set can begin to fade as well. And the purpose of this podcast today is to let you know, do not let that happen. So this podcast is for people who, one, haven't actually started their New Year's resolutions and their New Year's goals, and maybe they're pushing it back. This podcast is one to tell you to start. And number two, this podcast is for the people who have started and have begun the pushing and begun the digging and begun creating that line of sight to their goals. I am here to encourage you. Just because the new year energy has faded does not mean that your goals get to fade with it. And I get it. As you continue to do something, especially something that's new, once that initial motivation is gone, the adrenaline has settled, and what you have left is routine. Sometimes it is really hard to keep it going because, well, this is new. And this is something that, as in the last few years, I have begun adapting new goals and taking on new resolutions, setting new standards, setting goals for myself. That's something that I have never gotten over, how quiet consistency is. It does not announce itself. It isn't dramatic. At times it can be quite painful because it feels like you're trying to fit an old mold into a new one. And honestly, sometimes at the bare minimum, it's rarely impressive. Most days, consistency just feels like literally climbing out of bed again or taking those gym shoes and putting it back on. It isn't the excitement and the TikTok reels and the Instagrams with the stories and the music behind. Doing the thing sometimes can be incredibly boring. And maybe this is a part of the discomfort that comes with being able to recognize progress. I think that sometimes we expect progress to feel motivating, we expect it to feel validating, we expect it to feel noticeable. But I think real consistency is often subtle, it's repetitive, and extremely boring. I think a perfect example of this is literally going to the gym. And not just going to the gym, but going to the gym explicitly to build muscle. So, from my very, very small understanding of muscles and anatomy, okay, from what I understand, in order to build a muscle, you have to keep coming back and lifting to failure every single time. And that is how the muscle gets built. Well, essentially, the muscle gets built by each time you lift to failure, kind of like breaking parts of the muscle for the muscle to rebuild again stronger and bigger. And I just love that analogy also because we generally use, well, when you're trying to build consistency as a muscle, right? Meaning also that, and also sort of implying that there is a force that you are combating in order for you to tear away, kind of your old self, but then also build up a new self for yourself, if that makes sense. In my head, it makes perfect sense, but I hope I'm articulating it well. But I think that is just so, I think it's clever because indeed, starting and trying to build new habits, starting and trying to fit a new form can be painful. You do have to push yourself to a metaphorical failure. But you just have to keep showing up every day. And just like how if you keep showing up to the gym physically, that muscle will begin to build. Same thing as well. And again, it is consistency. The magic sauce and all of this is consistency. Consistency looks like doing small things well, Consistency looks like returning to your standards even when no one notices. Consistency is choosing steadiness over intensity. It looks like routines that aren't exciting but they're supportive, and habits that will ground you and stabilize you. And most importantly, consistency is continuing even if you are not sure it's working yet. I believe that this is the stage where people usually drift, not because they have failed, but because they're not being patient. They're expecting it to be louder, they're expecting it to be bigger, but often growth whispers before it speaks. I cannot express how invaluable my quiet seasons have been for me. I mean, I've gone through my trials, I've gone through my seasons, I've gone through my own things where I literally just had to go back to the basics. And I remember very early I had a therapist who had taught me, Addie, you need 3 things to anchor you in a day. What are those 3 things going to be? And I remember I told her I'm going to run every day. I was going to journal and I was going to pray. And those 3 things in that season held me down and was what was able to push me and sustain me to the next season. It wasn't loud. It wasn't pronounced. I couldn't post them on social media. I couldn't talk about the growth that was happening within me. Honestly, some days I couldn't even see the growth, and I'm not speaking physical. I'm even speaking mental. I'm talking about the shift, the mindset shift that was happening within me, the spiritual shift that was happening within me. And that season, the consistency that I had in that season, the grit, the grind that I had in that season is what was able to sustain me in the next. So even if right now things feel really quiet, it doesn't mean that you're off track. I think it means that you've moved past the performance and you've now moved into practice. Consistency, again, is not supposed to impress you. It is supposed to sustain you. So if you're in a quieter phase of this year, here's what I want you to hear. You do not need to recreate urgency to prove that you care. You do not need constant excitement to justify staying committed. Sometimes the most meaningful work is happening even when it feels almost invisible. So stay with it and stay with yourself and trust that consistency, even when it's quiet, is still doing the work. So before I wrap up, I want to leave you with a question to sit with this week. Where in your life are you expecting progress to be louder than it actually is? Where are you showing up, still being consistent, but it's discounting you because it doesn't feel exciting yet? You don't need to answer this question perfectly. You just need to notice where the quiet effort is happening and whether maybe, perhaps, you've been overlooking it. Okay, you guys, that's it. We are now officially going to go into Dilemmas with Fikayo. Last week I introduced this new segment and I did receive one dilemma this week. And here it is. It actually was what prompted this specific episode. So, dear listener, I hope this helped. But it says, I started the new year really strong. I had clear intentions. I was motivated, and now I'm still doing the things, but it feels flat. I'm not excited, and I'm wondering if it means that I chose the wrong goals or I'm not disciplined enough. And I think that maybe you did not choose the wrong goals. Maybe we just need to go back and look at the goals, because sometimes they don't always have to feel like an insurmountable mountain. Your goals don't always have to feel threatening. They don't always have to feel scary. I feel like if they do, then maybe you're doing something wrong. What I think that you're starting to do is you are starting to fall into routine, and that is exactly what you want to do. I think you want to get to the point where there isn't an emotional wall, or it doesn't feel difficult doing these things. And I think that you're just falling into a routine. I think maybe you're falling into a routine, you're falling into a system. Now, if also, this is also where you get to be honest with yourself as well, right? And you get to look, no, but truly, are these goals too easy? Maybe there's a way that you can push them a little bit more, but it's about finding the balance, right? Again, do not make them so hard that you'll be intimidated to do and complete the goal. That's not what we want, because what's the point? But we do not want to make it too easy to where you're not feeling challenged as well. And maybe challenged isn't the word, but at least make sure that you are setting your goals up to where they are helping you, they are improving you. I wouldn't say roll off of bed in the morning if you know you roll off of bed in the morning every day. Now, I would say that if you are someone who is used to being in bed all day and kind of just bed rotting, I would have that be a goal for you. But if you don't struggle with that, then why would you make that your goal? Because you don't struggle with it, you know? So, what I would say is assess your goals, look at them again. Do not make them too hard, do not make it too easy. It's a balancing act, but make sure that you are getting something out of it and ultimately you feel like you are growing. But on the other hand, as well, there's nothing wrong with having a routine. There's nothing wrong in sitting in that routine. And I would say that if these goals truly are a little challenging already, right? Just on like a normal base, like they're relatively challenging. Make sure that you are consistent in it first before you start making it even more challenging. I hope I answered your question. If you have any follow-ups, if any of my listeners have anything to say, please again leave a comment, subscribe wherever you're listening to me. Follow me on Instagram at Fikayo, Fiikayo, and then also the podcast Instagram as well. You guys know that I am always available, and if you have a dilemma that you've been sitting with about time, discipline, direction, consistency, please send it in. We are not looking for a perfect question, we are looking for an honest one. All right, you guys, I love you all so much. My name is Fikayo, and thank you so much for having me in your ears. Goodbye.